Tonight on Countdown to Green. Take a look back at all the action from the Tricky Triangle. We get you prepared for the start of the eNASCAR playoffs. And we take a look at how you're racing at home. All that and more tonight on Countdown to Green.
Hello and welcome to the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. This is Countdown to Green and we are getting ready for the race, the Logi Play Days 140 at Michigan. I'm your host, Camille Salazar-Hadaway. Joining me as always, we have Alan Cavana and Blake McCandless. How are you two doing?
Oh, it's so good to be here. So good to finally say the playoffs are here. The road to $100,000, the big trophy, the live event at the NASCAR Hall of Fame. This is such a big deal, and it starts tonight. Our 10 drivers, plus a whole field that may want to, kind of mix this up, Blake, and kind of steal the spotlight from the playoff drivers.
I love this time of year. Not only is it playoff time, that's exciting enough as it is, but in eNASCAR, there is only one round, 3 races to go from 10 to 4. So there's a lot of heartbreak. There's a lot on the line if you're able to get a win. We can only have one driver point their way in to the championship at Homestead Miami Speedway. So it's an intense time and so important for these 10 drivers to have a good start at Michigan tonight.
Yes, you got championship on the line, but also relegation as well, which we'll talk about later in the show. But for now, before we could take that step ahead and go all play championship, we got to talk about what happened at Pocono, Blake.
It was a wild one at Pocono a couple of weeks ago, and that's just been the going trend in this series, right, Alan? Every time we come to Pocono, of course, this is pretty normal to see 5. I think sometimes we were able to count 6 wide going into turn 1, but it was a chaotic regular season finale that could have rivaled one that would have taken place at Daytona.
Yeah, and look, some of these moves, going down the front stretch like this, you just have to attribute to the format. You have to attribute to the desperation that came in the last race of the regular season. There was some strategy here. Caden Honeycutt getting on different strategies, trying to come back through the field. But some of the moves we saw, some of the blocks that we see, Blake, it was all because this was the last chance to get into the playoffs and still have that shot at $100,000. Sometimes, look, we see it on Sundays with the big series, right? Sometimes we see it here in eNASCAR. Not maybe the smartest moves, but some desperate moves to try to get it done.
Again, it was that desperate move by Caden Honeycutt trying to block Steven Wilson that kind of set all of this in a chain. It had been a long green flag run where we kind of had some split ups and strategies. Some drivers that were trying to make it on fuel, some that were trying to split it and go about halfway through the distance. A couple of late green-white checkers has a massive effect, not only on who wins this race, but on several key playoff positions. But in the end, Graham Bolin, right place, right time, clutches it up and is able to get a win that secures his spot into the playoffs, that knocks out a potential point contender, Alan.
And we saw Graham wasn't the only one. Femi was out there on the outside. We thought he was going to get the win and in of it all. Just a great race to end the regular season finale.
And I don't think that it can, well, that's my going thought from Pocono. I don't think it can be any different than Graham Bolin. Once again, he has been in this situation a number of times in his career. You can see the highlights back at Watkins Glen. Mitchell DeYoung, probably the most accomplished road racer we've had in series history. Graham Bolin outduels him back when he was with Stuart Haas Racing to be able to take the win. And of course, playoff time is Graham Bolin time. He's been a member of the Championship 4 when he was driving for the Charlotte Phoenix a year ago. Again, Graham Bolin knows how to get the job done in these clutch situations, and it showed no different when we went to Michigan.
And I'm just thinking about the regular season points battle and how the effect it had on the playoffs. Every position, guys, mattered in the regular season. Wyatt Tinsley missed the playoffs by 1 point. Do you know what that is? That is one position in the regular season. Any race throughout the regular season, if Wyatt Tinsley had passed one more car, he would be in the playoffs. And it's just such a shame because he won the season opener, which means he earned a victory in this series, which is so tough. And to see the reward for that is supposed to be to go for a championship. But because he didn't get one more position in whether it's the final race or at any point in the regular season, He's on the outside looking in. Casey Kerwin as well. I mean, former champions. It's crazy to think about, Blake. One position in the entire season. That's what cost a driver at the end.
And we're going to see that here in a second as we take a look at our 10 playoff drivers that are all competing. You can see how they're lined up, the playoff points that they accrued during the regular season, led by Steven Wilson, who got a couple of wins. He also got a pair of segment wins this season that he was able to collect a couple of playoff points for. So he'll start 20 points to the good ahead of what that cut line is beneath Tucker Minter, or I guess kind of in all of those drivers that have 2005 points. There are 4 spots left in the championship for at the finale at Homestead Miami Speedway. But again, a lot to talk about in the playoffs, a lot to talk about who is going to keep their spot in the series. Now that the playoffs drivers can compete for a championship, the rest of the focus is for these drivers to try and stay in the top 20 so that they have a ride potentially in 2024 for the 16th season. And by the way, look at Wyatt Tinsley. You mentioned he's 1 point out of the playoffs. Now he's 1 point out of relegation and having a seat next year. That's how important that just that one position can matter. He'd be locked in. He'd have a shot to win a championship. Now he's got to fight for just his right to be in the series along with the rest of the drivers you see on the right-hand side of your screen that are on the outside looking in at the moment.
So tough. And that's not the only thing on the line. Of course, the team standings, you can see them here. William Byron Esports really having a great season. They've got 2 drivers in the playoffs and M80 right behind them. Not a lot of jumbling in the top 5, but still the top 5 separated by only 80 points. In one race, you can have about a 79-point swing. So far from over, so much on the line. $40,000 for the top 5 teams at the end of this playoff, including an extra 15 to the winning team. So a lot of pride and some money, a trophy on the line for these team standings. William Byron Esports still dominating right there.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot on the line. You talked about it. That relegation, I think, is going to be a lot in what these drivers are taking into consideration heading to the start. But I think also we got to talk about the teams. Although you mentioned there's not that much movement, there's a lot on the line, like you said, for the teams. And luckily here at Countdown to Green, we actually get to check in with the teams behind the teams that bring this all together. And Alan, you have someone that's from a team that's rounding up the top 3?
Yeah, from Joe Gibbs Racing, the co-owner of Joe Gibbs Racing, Heather Gibbs. Her teams, they have 2 shots at winning this championship. So, of course, we wanted to make sure they're represented here on the show. She was kind enough to join us, and we asked her about the importance of sim racing to Joe Gibbs Racing.
I feel like the value that sim racing has for Joe Gibbs Racing, I mean, it starts with our development drivers. It opens the door for kids, at any age to start racing and being a part of that iRacing series. And I mean, even to my son Ty, who's our youngest Cup Series driver, when Kurt Busch was hurt at Pocono, Denny called to find out if Ty wanted to step in, first Cup Series race. He's never been in the car. He's never sat in it. And all he wanted to do was get home and get on his own racing simulator. It was pretty funny because so many people, in his interviews were like, "Oh, did he go to TRD, to our big simulator?" And he was like, "No, I'm at home. I got on iRacing." And he was like, stayed up till all night getting on it, and it really gave him at least confidence to get on the track. And he'll be the first one to tell you, iRacing has been so helpful in his career. And I think we see it with our Xfinity drivers, with our ARCA guys, and all of our Cup Series.
I remember that day. It was a big day to have Ty Gibbs on that iRacing sim and then be able to go into the Cup race. So speaking of that, we've seen drivers from the Coke Series now work for teams and helping teams out. So we asked Heather, what is the future of sim racing for her team?
I see the future of sim racing and motorsports really allowing people across the country, even outside the country, to have an opportunity to race tracks that our drivers in NASCAR have the opportunity, but without having a car or tires and the expense of it, they can get experience on the tracks. I think it's incredibly valuable, especially with the elimination of practices and tests. I mean, you're down to day of. I know Ty's first race that he ran at the Daytona road course, he had never sat in, a car, never had a live green pit stop. and was really well prepared coming from his experience on simulators, experience running iRacing, to be able to get into that car. And I think that's what's exciting, and really updating all the tracks that they've been doing and keeping with the repaves and everything else. It allows those people that don't have everyday access to the tracks to be able to race those same courses that our current Cup drivers are racing.
And we can't say it enough. Joe Gibbs Racing is one of 2 organizations to have 2 shots at getting this eNASCAR title. We asked her what that's like to be one of those 2.
Well, I think having both drivers make the playoffs really exciting. Obviously, Bobby has made the Final Four many different times, and Daniel winning his first race at Indy and now making the playoffs is exciting. Having Interstate Batteries, who is our founding sponsor at Joe Gibbs Racing 33 years ago, is our sponsor for esports, is really exciting. It just tells you how much value we put into simulation racing and iRacing, and we're excited. I think Bobby feels like it's his championship to win this year, so we'll see what happens, but thrilled for both of them, and look forward to see how they do in the playoffs.
She mentioned it, Bobby Zielinski, one of the longest relationships with the team, him being with Joe Gibbs Racing. We asked her what it's like to have Bobby Z on a team and have that championship caliber still there.
Well, obviously he's grown, he's shown talent. We've even brought him to our headquarters here in Huntersville to have him start doing some simulation testing for us. He's really good on road course setups and technical settings. So he's just proven, with his experience on iRacing, that it's helpful for our team in, real life on the track as well. So we see a lot of potential in him.
And just yet another example of one of the drivers from our eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series guys going to these big cup organizations and helping them with their setups on Sundays, helping them with the Sunday drivers. That line just there's no blur anymore. It's a direct line between our drivers and success on Sunday.
You're absolutely right. I just got to echo that. It's so great to see our drivers go on and make an impact with these organizations. And I think that's also winning. So whether you're walking away with the championship, hey, you're getting that experience, right?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Speaking of experience, some of you out there have quite the bit of experience setting up your rigs. And now that we're getting into where we get to see your rigs and talk about them, and give it all the praise that it deserves. This is the Logitech Show Us Your Rigs, my favorite segment. We get to see your rigs at home. Our first one is coming from Casual Wolf. Oh, this is nice. Is that 5 screens I'm seeing there?
It looks like that's the case. And, I know 4 is kind of a go-to for a lot of these rigs, but 5, I got to tell you, that's doing another level. So a really nice setup here. Again, you get a great vantage point having all 3 of those angles, and a really nice one.
Our next one is from Jordan. Jordan, he's got that wheel mount right there for the desk, and another wheel right there in case one's not working.
I think we could say Jordan is cooking here because this is a kitchen setup. I believe that. Look at the cabinets right above there. I mean, look, this just shows the priority sim racing is for some people. You got to race wherever you can, however you can do it. And then this is all you need. You can set it up in your kitchen. You got a monitor, some cabinets. That's all you need.
I mean, driving and eating, why not? This one's from G. Blake, what are you thinking? Lots of RGB.
Yeah, I was about to say the LED lights in here gives this one a really nice vibe. You can definitely tell this is somebody who's a content creator or streamer or just likes to have a really clean, nice look when he's racing here. You got the curved single monitor, which is something that I utilize as well. So very nice here, G. Nice, well done. And I got to say here, Alan, this is my guy, Seth Ryder, using the old tried and true Logitech Driving Force GT. It may not be symmetrical, but you know what? You can still get the job done even with, I don't want to call it ancient, but an experienced piece of equipment. Let's call it that.
I'm glad you chimed in on this. Can you look over to the left this whole time? I mean, are you kind of doing the body lean while you're driving? Do you understand this?
It's probably not comfortable, but it's possible. You can do it. But again, I think the wheel is the one that makes this rig. I love that.
It's all right. Seth just has a little bit of lean while he's driving, all right? It's fine. It's fine. Our next one, NASCAR Technical Institute. Hello.
Yeah, why not? You're learning a little something, you want to take a break, and then you get to jump on these beauties. Why not? Sign me up for some school. School never had this, Blake. Camille, I mean, when we went to school, you never had these cool rigs. You're learning something, you also get a little break. Why not? Maybe you can apply to, the real life stuff too. So it's pretty neat.
And you know what, Alan? Speak for yourself. I'm young at heart. Remember to send your rigs to us here so they could be on the show using the hashtag eNASCAR and iRacing and tagging both of those. We like to see them right here, and it's such a blast. We keep saying that we're going to show our own rigs, but I don't think we could outdo the rigs that we've seen here on the show.
Let me run to the kitchen quick. I'll bring my camera.
All right. Now, with that, we are getting into playoffs and championship. All this talk, Alan, it has me thinking that we should probably hear from a former winner of the NASCAR Cup Series.
Yeah, champion in his own right, a car owner. Brad Keselowski, kind enough to join us here on the show. What a get. Brad is an old school guy, so we made sure to ask him about his history with sim racing and video games, all that stuff. He's got a deep connection with sim racing. Here's what he told us.
Yeah, well, when people ask me all the time, what's the deal? What's the story? What's the deal with sim racing, particularly moms and dads or grandmas and grandpas that, are trying to get their kids into racing. They ask a lot of questions about sim racing. And probably the first thing I would tell them is economically, it's a lot cheaper. And you can find the type of racing that you like, right? And one of the things I like about sim racing, and in particular iRacing, I think tells the story very well, is, you can do dirt racing, you can do oval racing, you can do road courses in all different types of cars. You can do IndyCar, you can do stock car, you can do sprint cars. I mean, there's just all this variety. And I think sim racing is a really economical way to find what you like. And you might like all of them, which is great too. Certainly I do to some degree. And, I think to go on top of that, it's such an easy way to learn, once you find what you like, to learn the racecraft, the skills and the technical procedures, the process of making vehicle speed and being able to execute on the racetrack. And, is it going to have 100% correlation to real world? No, probably never. But the tools today are better than they've ever been, and they keep getting closer. Sim racing, 10, 20 years ago, maybe it had a correlation of 90, 91%. Now, it's hovering in that 98, 99% correlation range. And it just keeps getting tighter and tighter. And it's really phenomenal to see. So I think it's one of the best ways to immerse yourself in those environments that maybe you might not have an opportunity to do so elsewise.
Great insight there. And we know, look, sim racers help out 2311 Racing. We just heard from Joe Gibbs Racing. So we asked Brad, how important is sim racing in development to RFK?
Well, certainly iRacing is an important tool to me, even still to this day. We have all types of different sim capabilities at RFK Racing, and we leverage each one to the max. Specific to iRacing, a lot of it is fairly proprietary. But, we're just trying to find areas that maybe I'm not at my top of game, and just tune them up and refresh ourselves with what we're going to need on any individual weekend to be able to go out and perform at a high level on the real racetrack.
And let's not forget, Brad is a businessman as well. So we asked him about the correlation between the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series and the value of sponsorship that it gets for RFK.
Yeah, with RFK's e-racing teams, obviously we put a lot of emphasis on using our real partners on the cars. And, as we talk to our partners about the value of motorsports, and particularly with RFK Racing, esports is just another component and a value add that we can offer them to, a different fan base of sorts. And, we like that ability to engage, in the esports series. And I think we're going to continue to do so.
If you don't know, Brad is a proud Michigander. That's where we're racing tonight. So we asked him for any advice he might give to the field racing tonight.
Yeah, Michigan is such an interesting track for the next gen car. And, as I look at that being the first round of the playoffs for the Coke Series, I think to myself, that's a big challenge, right? Drafting really important. You got to know when to pull out and make a pass, and then when to get back in line. And Timing those runs just right sounds really easy, but as we've all learned, when you're going 190 mile an hour, things happen a lot faster than you think.
And look, we know Brad has done a lot in his career. He's never raced live at the NASCAR Hall of Fame with a big crowd looking at him. We asked him about that environment, what that might be like.
Yeah, I think it's always a big challenge for me as a race car driver when you're not in your comfort zone. For me, something as simple as, not sitting in the same seat or the seat not being perfectly the same as what I'm used to can be a distraction. And anytime you have distractions, you're never at the top of your game. And for the championship race to be hosted, in a different venue than what those drivers are experiencing in the Coke Series there, it'll be a new challenge, a new stress around them that they'll have to overcome if they want to be a champion.
And it's so great to hear from him. Look, I know Brad, old school guy, back to the papyrus, the dial-up modem days. He's been racing online that long, but now he's applying it to the future of his race team. It's so cool to see that evolve.
Dial-up, I don't know what you're talking about, Alan. I'm so young. But you know what? As you are, some of you are, as we heard, proud Michigan, track fans. Well, let's take a look at the track that we're racing at tonight. We have Team Dillon, Jonathan Delaney, to take us through.
What's up, guys? Jonathan Delaney here, driver of the number 3 Coca-Cola Chevrolet for Team Dillon Esports. Today, I'm going to be taking you guys around a couple laps at Michigan International Speedway. Alright, tonight at Michigan, it's the first race of the playoffs. Everyone's going to be, the playoff drivers are going to be looking for a win to advance them to the Final Four. They're going to probably be pretty aggressive. And you're probably also going to see the non-playoff drivers be pretty aggressive too. They don't really have much to lose. They're not in intention to win the title, so they're probably going to be making some pretty aggressive moves, maybe some aggressive pitch strategies as well. Here in Michigan, it's a very high-speed track. We're going to be reaching speeds of 205, 200 miles an hour down the straightaways. You're going to see also a lot of drafting going on too. You're going to see a lot of people tandeming together, trying to break away from the pack possibly. And there's just a lot of grooves to work with. You got lanes all the way down at the yellow line, and you're going to see guys also working up by the wall at the very top. Tonight, you're going to be a lot of tight, clean racing. You're going to see a lot of 3-4 wide racing, just like how you guys saw at Pocono. Everyone's going to be, fighting for all they have. So I think everyone's going to be very aggressive. Hopefully we can keep it clean. And that's a few laps around Michigan for you guys.
All right, now with that, we have our picks that we're going to be talking about. But before we get to picks, we do have to talk about the trends that may have went in to some of our picks. Because
it's important to look at the history.
Al?
Oh, totally. Because look, we've been here a lot. This is the 15th eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series race at Michigan. Didn't run back in 2022, but they did run it back twice in 2010. So 15 times. A lot of experience here at this track. Garrett Lowe is the only playoff driver to win at Michigan. We're talking the 10 that are going for the championship. He's the only one that's won here. He won in 2019, and he's the defending winner from last season. So we might have to look at him tonight to get it done at Michigan. In 9 of the 14 Michigan races, the winner has led the most laps. That makes sense, but 33%, a third of the time, 1/3 of the winners have won from the pole position. Qualifying, always important. We'll see what they can do tonight, and if that's a big advantage. 3 Michigan winners went on to win the championship. Richard Towler, Kenny Humpy in 2015, and Ray Alfala, our boy still racing, he won there in 2016, went on to win the championship as well. Michigan was the final win of the season for 11 of the 14 winners. Think about that. Yes, you won Michigan, but it's the last race you won. I don't know if you want to be like that. The last outlier to kind of buck that trend was Ryan Luza back in 2018, actually won again after winning Michigan. So we'll see what that means. Do you want to win Michigan? Of course. Will you win the championship? The trend says no.
All right, well, it's all about whether we believe in the trends, because of course we got to look at our brackets because we got to see where we are right now. Let's take a look. Blake, tell us your picks for the championship bracket. Who's going to get in first?
Well, from what I'm looking at, I think it's going to be Bobby Zielinski. He's been a stalwart in the championship for Parker White, Graham Bolin again. Daniel Falkingham finds a way to get in, and I think this is finally the year, 2024. He's been in the championship for so many times. I think he finally breaks through and gets that championship. So for me, I'm rolling with Bobby Z in 2024.
Blake going out on some limbs, going for the good story. I'm just going with the stats here. Come on, baby. Steven Wilson. Heck yeah. Nick Ottinger, Vicente Salas, Tucker Minter. I mean, these drivers have shown, look, Steven Wilson gets all the wins. The William Byron esports cars are doing phenomenal. And Vicente, to me, it seems like his year. And I'm taking Steven Wilson to go back to back.
All right, Alan, it seems like we have some similarities because I'm thinking Wilson is going in first, then I have Bobby Z, Tucker Minter, and Vicente Salas. And you know what? The thing is, it is about the stats. It's about the consistency. Who has the most wins in the season? Who's consistent top 10? And that's what I'm thinking about as we head into playoffs. But we are at Michigan first, and we got to talk Michigan. So, who's your pick for tonight's race, Blake?
Well, we just talked about the fact it's a championship, and I think he's going to propel himself to a championship by winning tonight and having nearly a month and a half to focus on Homestead Miami. So I'm taking the VRS Toyota, Joe Gibbs Racing. Bobby Zielinski gets the job done in Michigan and has all that time to focus on just the championship race.
Not bad. And I know it sounds like a broken record, but I'm going with a driver who has all the wins, but he's also good. He was great at Indy. He was good at Pocono, and he's going to have success again tonight at Michigan. I can't pick against Steven Wilson once again.
I think I'm also hearing broken records because I also chose Steven Wilson. You just can't ignore the stats. I know Blake is giving us a face, but we're here to win, Blake. We're here to win.
Well, I'll tell you somebody that may be here to win at Michigan tonight, and golly, it's almost heartbreaking for me to say it. Pole sitter tonight is Wyatt Tinsley. Can you imagine, again, 1 point? If he had that, he would be set up for such a great start tonight, and he will indeed, but may have to do it with relegation on the line. Not a chance.
1 point, Wyatt.
Oh, 1 point, 1 point. It's going to sting and may sting for some drivers as well because we are in playoffs starting tonight. The race ahead, the Logi Play Days 140 is about to start, so be sure to grab your Coca-Cola, grab some snacks, sit down and relax, and stick around for the race. Thank you for watching Countdown to Green.
Every time you sit behind the wheel, you buckle up for the unexpected. You get ready to take on the competition and brace yourself for the chaos, the speed, the weather, the unknown. But above all, when strapping in, you put trust in yourself, your intuition, making your guide to win, your drive to win.
He's a winner in this.
And nothing is going to stop you from winning.
This is the make or break moment.
Oh my goodness!
Not just for the day, but for the years to come. This is where a race isn't just about the race. It's about the doors it can open.
That kid is amazing.
The number of fans wearing your number. This is the chance to carve your name into the history books. This is the NASCAR Xfinity Series.
Tried to drag me down, but look who's laughing now. Look who's laughing now. I believe in something that I can't explain. The wind is calling out my name. Let it rain on me. You know I put in the hours, and I'm not gonna wait in line. I'm gonna take what's mine for the world to see. You gotta take the lead. You gotta feel the fire.
To $500,000 is down to the 10 best drivers in the world. From iRacing's virtual Michigan International Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round one, race one of the 2024 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series playoffs. Tonight, the Logitech Play 140 kicks off a 4-race march towards the championship. I'm happy, as always, to have you with us. With Blake McCandless, my name is Evan Pasoko, and Blake, we've spent a lot of time this year kind of reflecting on this series' history, and now it'll be the 8th time in this series' 15-year history that this playoff format will determine a champion, and there are just as many compelling storylines as when we started it all those years ago.
It really is. So many drivers coming in, just barely getting in at the end. Daniel Falkingham, Graham Boland just getting their wins right before the regular season ended. But then you have the likes of Steven Wilson, who's pretty much known his playoff fate for a while. He's carrying in a lot of playoff points. Bobby Zielinski. So many different agendas. And again, the one thing that makes eNASCAR so unique in the postseason is that you don't have to be just better than the bottom 4. You have to be in the top 4 out of 10. So we dropped 6 in the first round. So there's no time to just sit around and be good enough. You have to go out and be the best.
And for the first time all year, we can say that a ticket to the championship race is on the line starting here and tonight. I mentioned it is down to just 10 after 40 drivers started this year with championship hopes. So let's let iRacing's Keenan Kusin introduce you to our playoff field.
Thank you and welcome everyone to the opening round of the 2024 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series playoffs. 10 drivers have separated themselves from the pack and enter this final stretch with the chance of being an eNASCAR champion, the chance to be $100,000 richer, and the chance of reaching sim racing immortality. Ladies and gentlemen, these are your eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series playoff contenders. Your 2023 and regular season champion not only bagged 3 wins, but dominated the stat sheets across the board. With an average finish just outside of 6, can anyone stop him from going back-to-back
From Iowa City, Iowa, in the number 10 M80 Mustang, it's Steven Wilson. The road course ace grabbed his 2 wins at Chicago and across the pond at Brands Hatch. An eNASCAR playoff veteran, he's done being the bridesmaid. In the number 18 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota from Fresno, California, it's Bobby Zalenski. Bringing a legend of motorsport into eNASCAR playoff contention for the first time in the number 11 Toyota for Tony Kanaan Esports. Punching his ticket into the playoffs in Darlington, can he go all the way to Homestead? From Temecula, California, it's Vicente Salas. Bringing it home in the Music City, earned his way into the playoffs, but with 5 podiums on the year, he's a face used to being at the front of the field. For William Byron Esports in the number 97 Chevrolet Camaro from Warrenton, Virginia, it's Tucker Minter. Taking his win for the season at his home race in Charlotte, he is trying to take BS Plus competition all the way to a championship in their inaugural season. From Gastonia, North Carolina, in the number 89, it's Garrett Lowe. Punching his ticket at the final race, going from 6th to 1st at the final restart, the Tricky Triangle Pocono. He's got all the momentum heading into the eNASCAR playoffs. From Houston, Texas, driving the number 48 Toyota for Kansas City Pioneers, it's Graham Bolin. With one of the more recent and most popular wins of the year at Indianapolis, he completes the set of Joe Gibbs Racing drivers in the eNASCAR playoffs. Now a Coke Series winner. Can he become a Coke Series champion? From Jones Sport, Maine, in the number 54 Toyota, it's Daniel Falkingham. The driver of the number 41 Mustang waited a long time to get back into victory lane and was able to get Travis Pastrana and the Nitro Circus Sim Racing team into the playoffs in their first year. Can he take it all the way to Homestead? From Halifax, Nova Scotia, it's Dylan Duval. One of only 2 drivers in the playoffs without a win this season, but a mainstay of the front of the field. Second in regular season points and 4 podiums on the year. Trying to bring eNASCAR glory to Williams Esports from Norwich Walk, Maine, it's Parker White. An eNASCAR staple and your 2020 season champion. His 2nd season in a row getting in on points. Can he get that extra gear to win it all? In the number 25 William Byron Esports Chevrolet from Claremont, North Carolina, it's the Yachty boss, Nick Ottinger. Only 4 of these drivers will have the chance to race for a championship at Homestead, but it all starts tonight in Michigan. Who will walk away a champion and $100,000 richer? We're about to find out as the 2024 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series playoffs start now.
The cars roll off. We go trackside and take a look at tonight's Coca-Cola starting grid. And it is the non-playoff driver in Wyatt Tinsley. A 1 point makes a world of difference. He's on pole tonight. In the Pioneers number 20 machine, he will be joined alongside in his first eNASCAR playoff appearance by the Williams Esports 53 of Parker White. Daniel Falkingham in Sauter Road 2, also playoff start number 1 in his Joe Gibbs Racing number 54 car. He's alongside the 2311 Racing Toyota 23 of Keegan Leahy. Defending series champion Steven Wilson will roll the M80 number 10 off of the inside of row 3 to his outside, the Junior Motorsports number 8 of Caden Honeycutt.
So many playoff drivers showing strong in qualifying. The same could be said for Dylan Duval for Nitro Circus, who will go from 7th. Bobby Zalenski for JGR, who will go off from the 8th position. Seth the Merchant, looking to stay the top 20 in points for FGR Excel, will start 9th. And Casey Kerwin misses out on a shot for another championship for Spire. He'll start 10th. Going from 11th for William Byron Esports, Tucker Minter and Vicente Salas for Tony Kanaan, both looking for a shot to gain some points tonight.
Hopefully, it's a lucky number 13 starting spot tonight for Graham Boland in the Pioneers number 48 car as he embarks on his third shot in the playoffs. He is alongside the Williams Esports 51 of Donovan Strauss. Zach Novak of the Oxygen Esports number 5 on the inside of row number 8 to his outside, the Jeter Motorsports 88 of Briar LaPrade. And on row number 9, it is the Travis Pastrana's Nitro Circus Sim Racing Team 99 car of Matthew Zawak. And to the outside, another one of your playoff drivers, the PS Competition 89 of Garrett Lowe.
Represented in row 20 is Steve Letart's Esports entry with Dylan Alt in 19th. Ryan Doucette for the Pittsburgh Knights will go from 20th. Timothy Holmes for RFK Racing will start 21st with KHI's Jimmy Mullis in 22nd. E-Racer, 4-time champion Ray Alfala will start 23rd tonight. Jonathan Delaney, who took us around a couple of minutes ago, will start 24th for Team Dillon.
Some may call him Mr. Excitement. We call him Michael Cozy Jr. It's the Front Row Motorsports 38 car to the inside of row 13, to the outside, the Letardi Sports 36 of Kwame Scott. Row 14 will see the Oxygen Esports 22 of Femi Alton Boson alongside the M80 number 80 of Ryan Luza. And back on row 15 through your top 30 spots, it is the Austin Dillon's Team Dillon Esports number 33 at Taylor Hurst, next to the Kevin Harvick Incorporated 62. That one is Matt Busa.
Nick Ottinger is going to have quite a hole to dig himself out of after already being behind in terms of playoff points for William Byron Esports. He starts 31st tonight. Got his work cut out for him. Garrett Maines will start 32nd for FGR Excel. Cody Bias 33rd for the Pittsburgh Knights entry, followed by Michael Guest in 34th and the number 45 for 2311. Colin Keister for Tony Kanaan starts 35th with Jody Lopez going tonight from 36 for the other BS Plus competition entry. Then you have Derek Bordeaux for Front Row Motorsports. Malik Ray, who just missed out on a playoff spot starting tonight from the outside of row 19, as well as Tyler Gary for E-Racer 39th. Colin Bowden for RFK Racing will go from the 40th starting spot tonight.
So it's a look top to bottom at your Coca-Cola starting grid. Top of that scoring pylon is the number 20 Toyota of Wyatt Tinsley. Blake's got him dialed up.
Sitting on pole tonight, Wyatt Tinsley. Great job starting out front for the Kansas City Pioneers, but you have this race in front of you. You're starting in the best spot. How do you manage from this position, along with everything else going on in the postseason around you?
Well, it's going to be an interesting one, I could say for sure. I think the best way to do it is just kind of stay in front of track position. I mean, I got this really, really nice Pioneers jersey this week, so I think that might have been the light in the day for my pole position. But my definitely goal is to help Graham get in the Final Four for sure, because I unfortunately missed it. Yeah, well, I'm glad to be up front here. I really got to thank NFR, like North Force Racing, like 1, 2, 3, Stevens Fit, and then everyone else is just barely outside the top 20 or top 10. So like, yeah, we're just sitting pretty good here.
All right, Wyatt. Well, I know you got a lot of work in front of you tonight. We'll see if you can keep that 20 up here and perhaps get your second career win tonight. Best of luck.
Thank you so much. You have a nice one.
We got the best seat in the house, and you guys were talking on Countdown to Green. Pole here at Michigan has historically been a good sign. Of course, even though we're talking mainly about the 10 playoff drivers, there's still 40 cars out on track. You might wonder, how can you tell them apart? A couple of different things to look for tonight. Just think Coca-Cola red. Those red roof numbers, the windshield banners, the spoilers, the side skirts, and more. Look for those red indicators on the race cars to identify who's in and who's out. We'll also use that same color red on timing and scoring to keep you updated throughout the race, and you can figure out where those important playoff drivers are amongst all of the other chaos, Blake, in which those other 30 drivers aren't going to be taking it any easier on them tonight as we take a look at our Logi Play Days race analysis.
Again, 140 miles, 70 laps here at Michigan International Speedway tonight. Pit road speed down to 55 miles an hour. And, of course, this is a track that often lends itself to fuel mileage. So we'll see how these drivers kind of take this race, should it go green or put us within a fuel window. There are 3 sets of Goodyear Eagles that are laying down to the pits for them to take, as well as a pit window that can go a little bit past the halfway distance of this race, and perhaps even a little beyond that. So we'll see how these teams play it. We've had a lot of strategy come into play at Indianapolis and Pocono the last few weeks. Michigan should be no different.
15th race here at MIS in series history, but the first time in the postseason. And we're happy that you're strapped into the virtual seat and along for the ride with us. Pace car down and in. Wyatt Tinsley at the helm with 10 drivers, championship hopes on the line. Let's go playoff racing at Michigan. Good start to the outside and all the way to a third lane already goes Caden Honeycutt. White leads what's now the middle. Pole sitter Tinsley with a white 20 car on the inside. But to the race lead is Parker White as we're 4 wide off of turn 2.
And Caden Honeycutt did a terrific job. You're going to see this throughout the race, that being on that high side so much of the draft, it's so important as we are 4 wide, 5 wide with Vicente Salas. You can see right on the top side, that's the blue and yellow machine of Donovan Strauss that gets shuffled out. But as these guys kind of funnel out, we're going to see, I believe, that top lane start to be dominant with the draft that it pulls around. But Parker White leads lap 1. Tinsley falls back and almost outside of the top 5 from his first place starting spot.
What a sight is they're still 4 and 5 wide. You can see the scoring pylon left of your screen. Those red highlights indicate who the playoff drivers are. That's critical over the next few weeks. White to the lead early, but how long does that last? With plenty of battling going on. You're looking off at the back of defending series champion Steven Wilson. Bobby Zelensky right up behind him. That battle for P5 and 6, and they're going to get a push. A lot of drafting going to be happening at this racetrack with such high speeds, Blake.
A lot of red at the front of the field and a lot of sketchy moments there. Even for Wilson, you could really get a good look there that these cars, they have to drive them pretty free. You can hear a downshift through the center of 1 and 2. I think that's something throughout the night that'll be pretty common. Again, some of these teams can run a different gearing configuration, so we'll see if a couple will stay in 5th or if they'll stay in 4th or go back and forth between each of those gears. But right now, Wilson kind of on the bottom right here, and I think you're starting to see kind of that tug and pull between where you want to be. The tires are going to be important to save. From what I've heard talking to these drivers before this race, track position is going to be important. But you kind of have to choose one or the other. So you're going to have to be either very aggressive to get that track position early, or at least try to maintain, save a little bit in the pack with the fact that the draft is so important before trying to march your way forward. And see a change for second. Dylan Duvall, kind of like what Honeycutt did, has been making a lot of moves there on the top side, and it's been working well for him.
Yeah, both Duvall and Honeycutt have been making a lot of passes. Honeycutt drove all the way from P6 up to 2nd. Duvall started 7th. He takes that runner-up spot away. And now looking to the inside off the front straightaway, trying to make a challenge for the race lead. Lap led to Duvall on the inside. Can he clear into turn number 1? Yes, he does. And now Honeycutt follows suit on the bottom, puts it on the driver's side door of White. They'll go side by side off of turn number 2. Wilson up to 4th as well. He watches on.
So Dylan Duvall, I think, kind of taking the flip side of that. And again, I don't want to say that Duvall's a surprise in terms of his being able to qualify for the playoffs. Again, he's been a veteran in the series for a very long time, was able to get his win into the postseason through Talladega and being able to win that chaotic race at the end. But I think right now, kind of taking the opposite side of that approach, that there's going to be a number of playoff guys. They already see they're in a pretty good position. Again, look at all the red that's in the top 10 right now. There's 6 different drivers that are in the top 10 right now. That's pretty good. But Dylan Duvall making up a ton of ground early. You can see he's already trying to break the draft. He's being very aggressive. He's pushing those tires pretty hard. And again, we'll see if it works out. If a caution falls in the right spot, this could be the move. And being able to get that clean air, that track position early could be pretty crucial. But right now, showing the way and is quite a bit faster than the rest of the field, even with the fact he's given a ton of draft to everybody else.
Parker White led the opening 3 laps. You're on board with him, and that was Wilson getting really aggressive. Again, those red windshield banners as well as some of the red roof rails very visible off of the back of the 53 and on Wilson's car as well. This is the battle for 2nd and 3rd as they run right now. Wilson may be thinking about going low, stays in line. First bit of side-by-side's got Kerwin to the inside of Tinsley. That one is back at about P5 and 6. There's no better time of the year to be up with date on the circuit service. And of course, if you want the latest news and updates for the world of eNASCAR, you can scan the QR code bottom right of your screen now and stay in the loop with iRacing, the official simulation partner of NASCAR, as Wilson to the inside of Parker White. Battle for second is on, and the 10 car gets through handily by the time they get to the center.
And we kind of heard Wyatt Tinsley mention a lot of these drivers up at the front of the field technically aligned with one another. So I don't think you're going to see the 10, the 53, the 20 doing a lot of battle with each other in the early stint of this run. Again, draft matters a lot, and the fact that Dylan Duval got away so much is kind of the fact that we have seen a lot of changing for the second, third, fourth, fifth position. So you're hoping that they form up. As you can see, 3 wide. Again, that's Graham Bolin that's on the bottom. Strauss tried to get in line. He wasn't able to do so. But Bolin, kind of one of those few playoff drivers that's outside the top 10. DeMerchant's going to go by on the high side. So I don't want to say it's panic mode, but again, Evan, what makes these playoffs so crucial, so important, is the fact that we drop a majority of the field through this 3-race round. So if you're Daniel Falkingham, you're 14th right now. That would be pretty good most of this year. You usually want to be in the top half of the field to avoid relegation, but 14th right now is 7th of all running playoff drivers. That's not good enough.
Yeah, if this was a round of 16 and we were cutting 4, that may even be a tolerable number for one of these races. But you're right, it is much more cutthroat, only taking 10 out of the pool of 40 and then immediately cutting more than half of those drivers to go right to the championship 4. Watching this battle for 11th on back, Keegan Leahy, a 4-time playoff driver, a series champion. He has the most playoff appearances of any non-U.S. born driver with those 4. Of course, Dylan Duval joining him along with Christian Challenger as some of the international-born drivers who have been able to qualify for this championship. Keegan just on the cusp of a top 10 spot, but there's more 3 wide in front of them. I saw the 8 car, Honeycutt 3 wide. A lot of drivers pushing aggressively early to try to gain some spots, and there it is, Zelensky on the inside of all of this. And up top, it's Tucker Minter and also that 11 of Vicente Salas.
Well, again, in talking to a number of these drivers, they talk about that tire wear, and yes, the top side is tempting. You can go up there. You get to keep that draft. Look at Zelensky. He's got nobody down there helping him. He's having to side draft the 77 to try and pull him back. But you are going to use a little bit more tire. There's a little bit greater wear the higher that you go. And, of course, that's going to change with the dynamic track surface that iRacing has implemented over the course of the last year or so. The preferred groove is definitely going to change around. If anything, if everybody's in the high side early, that probably means the bottom comes in at some point in the night. So again, just trying to find that balance between keeping your track position, keeping your speed, staying in the draft, but also having something where you hope the last 20 or 30 laps of a run, you have something left to fight for. But you could see the punishment that comes with making a move to the bottom and not really being able to get up. Zelensky entered a couple of corners ago in 6th. He's back to 9th right now. So if you make a move and you're not quite able to get up, you can lose a handful of spots really quickly.
Take a look at Timmy Holmes on track, one of the 2 drivers in the RFK Racing stable alongside his teammate Colin Bowden, and had that opportunity earlier to talk with Brad Keselowski. One of the other questions we asked him about was how iRacing is such an important tool to the folks over at RFK.
Well, certainly iRacing is an important tool to me, even still to this day. You know, we have all types of different sim capabilities at RFK Racing, and we leverage each one to the max. Specific to iRacing, you know, a lot of it is fairly proprietary. But, you know, we're just trying to find areas that maybe I'm not at my top of game and just tune them up and refresh ourselves with what we're going to need on any individual weekend to be able to go out and perform at a high level on the real racetrack.
And you'll notice Timmy's car looks much like some of the RFK cars on the real-world NASCAR Cup Series track. We also asked Brad about how RFK has turned the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series into sponsor value.
Yeah, with RFK's e-racing teams, obviously we've put a lot of emphasis on using our real partners on the cars. And, you know, as we talk to our partners about the value of motorsports, and particularly with RFK Racing, esports is just another component and a value add that we can offer them to, you know, a different fan base of sorts. And, you know, we like that ability to engage, you know, in the esports series. And I think we're going to continue to do so.
So we thank Brad for his time. We heard some more of those answers on Countdown to Green, Blake, but a caution for the 8-car Caden Honeycutt. That was a top 10 machine, and he went around off of turn number 4. I think there was more than just him that started all of that, but it looked like the 8-car, the only one to go around.
And it's been a top 10 machine the last number of weeks. In fact, had a really strong shot at trying to qualify for the playoffs a couple of weeks ago at Pocono before he also got turned off the nose of Steven Wilson in that race. So certainly something going awry. I know we saw a little bit of the smoke there in 3 and 4 that he may have been fighting that car for a while before not being able to correct it. But again, this will set up a very interesting race if fuel can be, we know it's a concern at Michigan, 55 laps here to the end. That kind of puts us, I think, with a yellow or two kind of in range of making this a fuel mile race. So very important pit stop here.
And it is going to be wholesale service for a lot of these cars. Looks like Dylan Alt, Matthew Zawak, and Michael Cozy Jr., some of the names who stay out, but a lot of your top runners in for service. It is currently lap number 16 in this race. That leaves us with 54 laps to go. And let's wind it back and take a second look. The 8-car is the one who goes around, but look for the 97 and the 6. Contact into the corner between Minter and Holmes right there that kicks this all off. And both the 97 and the 18 of Zelensky almost got caught up in that one.
Yeah, you could see Honeycutt trying to stay out. Again, Minter may have tagged the wall and gotten a little bit of damage, but that could have been much, much worse. We'll see it one more time. Yeah, Minter kind of makes a move to the bottom, and Zelensky's there, so there's definitely contact. Honeycutt chases it all the way down the track, gets back on the racing surface, upsets the car, and even a couple of spins after that as they get tagged. And yeah, I think Minter actually gets hit in this one pretty hard as they come back up the racetrack. We'll see it one more time. Yeah, Minter, I think, just wasn't expecting Honeycutt to be running in that second lane. Honeycutt spins the entire corner, saving it, does a tremendous job, and luckily isn't able to, actually doesn't hit anything.
Here's Ottinger's perspective from well behind it, and you can see the smoke. They all start to lift and try to figure out where those cars are going to go. And if that car doesn't snap down, we're talking a big mess. And Ottinger also mere inches away from being collected in that accident. A couple of other cars involved. Minter did end up back into that outside wall at some point, but it was relatively minor damage. You see one of the cars that went around, or minor contact, I should say, one of the cars around the 3 of Jonathan Delaney, but that was a big near miss for a handful of those red bannered windshield playoff drivers, and now a shakeup with the top 6 drivers not coming down pit road. Alt, Zawak, Cozy, Gary, Bowden, and Maines will cycle their way through to the first 3 rows.
So you have about 6 drivers up here, all not competing for the postseason. But we heard Jonathan Delaney kind of mention it in his pre-race comments going around this racetrack that there's definitely the opportunity for those that, again, are fighting to stay in the top 20 in points and keep their spot in this series in 2025. The ability to be aggressive is there, and if they can't make it to the end on fuel, maybe flipping the track position is exactly what the doctor ordered.
Information on how to start your iRacing career, you can log on to iRacing.com today for more information. With iRacing, every day is race day, and maybe one day you could find yourself competing in this series. To learn more about the schedule, standings, teams, and more, you can log on to iRacing.com/eNASCAR for more information. So an early yellow going to put 17 behind us and give us a restart with 53 laps to go in this race. Those lead 6 cars going to be on 16 lap older tires. And then it is a bit of a mixed bag strategy-wise, 2 tires versus 4 from Zach Novak, Parker White on row number 4 on back. Pace car down and in, Alt in control to the restart zone. Green flag back in the air. Stellar jump for that 40 car. He's got 2 car lengths as they get up to speed at head to 1 and 2. Big moment there and a bobble. That 12 car remains a little bit out of shape.
And again, going to be really important for these drivers that are on fresh tires to get by all of these slower cars on old tires very quickly. But if you're a playoff driver, look at all the red that's in the middle of all of this. You can't make a mistake. You need to get by these cars. The last thing you need is putting yourself in a bad situation. And Parker White, you can see he's kind of the first car with the red number on the roof to get by all of this, and that's going to be a huge benefit for him. He has Dylan Alt in front of him that's on old tires. He'll try to follow Briar LaPrade, but a great cycle that worked out for Parker White right now.
And 3 wide for the race lead. Parker White trying to go for the 2-for-1 move on LaPrade and Alt. He slides up. He's got it. What a pass for Parker White to go back to the race lead, as it is still enthralled in 3 wide behind him with much of his other championship competitors. 4 wide. There's that 48 car to the middle of the 3 wide there of Graham Boland coming through. A lot of contact. As you mentioned, those cars on fresh tires trying to make a pass on all the drivers who decided to stay out.
Again, not all of them falling back quickly. Dylan Alt's still in 3rd. He's keeping up. Michael Cozy Jr. is still in the top 5 as he gets passed for the 4th spot. So old tires, not a terrible call here, but those drivers we saw at the very tail end of the field, they're the ones who kind of got swallowed up. Oh man, Wilson almost gets a shot from Garrett Maines as Wilson's out of line. But this may be a call that works out for a couple of them. But for right now, Parker White just too strong. He makes the pass for the lead. And oh, they're wrecking out of turn 4. Garrett Maines into Vicente Salas. They spin on the front straightaway, and caution is out. Just a couple of laps, 5 laps as a matter of fact, after that first wreck.
You called out the 11, Vicente Salas, the notable driver involved in this one. That 11 goes all the way around for a spin with the yellow flag coming out. Definitely had contact on just about all 4 sides of that race car. And then there will be some additional damage, as I think both the 48 car of Graham Boland and the 41 of Dylan Duval got stacked up a little bit on the outside wall. Duval may have avoided contact. There was minor contact for the 48 car. So 3 playoff drivers caught in the middle of this mess. And that was right in the hornet's nest where those fresh tires and old tires were meeting.
Let's take a look here. Oh, Maines a little bit loose. He gets a shot from Steven Wilson and trying to collect it, gets up into Vicente Salas. I'd love to know if he was a little sideways before that contact, or if the contact is what put that 12 car a little bit sideways. We can kind of see here on board Dylan Duval, playoff driver, just behind Graham Boland, playoff driver. And wow, do those two get a really, again, all things considered, that was really close. Could have been a lot worse.
I know right off of the initial restart, Maines was a little bit kind of unstable through the center of the corner, and maybe it had contributed in some to this contact. But again, you see it's Wilson who gets into him, and then when he spins the 12, the rear end of that car coming around is what gets the 11. Most of the damage to the 34 machine of Derek Bordeaux topside. That Love's Travel Stop machine lost the front bumper off of that race car. Going to be some significant damage. And I think, again, the driver who gets the worst of it was the only non-playoff driver in that 4-car row up on the outside. It'll be interesting to see with Salas primarily what the damage is on that ERA Toyota Camry. It is down pit road for repairs right now. So is basically everybody else that was involved in that accident. Salas spends about 35 seconds in the stall getting repairs, and he will now roll back out and rejoin the racetrack. Well, Vicente Salas rolling off of the pit lane now. Let's get analysis with the driver. Blake has him on the radio.
Vicente Salas ends up in that incident off of turn 4. And Vicente, any indication that perhaps that was going to happen?
No, I mean, I think we played our cards right there, right? You know, we started 19th. We stayed where the Mo was going to be. And we were making our way up really strongly into the top 5. I think we were going to take the lead and drive away from all those guys. But I should have known that the guy on the bottom is never going to live for any situation like that because he's the champ. So I'll keep that in the back of my head, and we'll drive right back to the front here. So,
any damage, or how bad is it? Do you think you can still keep up?
Yeah, I mean, there's 30 seconds of damage, but that's not going to be the last wreck, and there's definitely guys in front of me with worse damage. So we'll see what it gives us here and make sure we're there at the end.
All right, thanks for chatting with us.
Thank you, guys.
Well, Blake, I know it's not as a simple equation, but you hear 30 seconds of repairs on that vehicle. Where in your mind does that put that race car?
With what we've seen kind of in this newer damage model and some of the updates that iRacing has had, I'd say 30 seconds as long as they can get that all repaired, which it looks like they were able to. I don't think that that's going to be a concern. Again, you just might be a little bit slower on the straightaways, just a hair, but for the most part, the draft is going to be able to overcome that. So as long as you fix it, and we've seen a number of drivers be involved in some incidents this year and still have very competitive cars. So just have to hope the cards shake out your way. But as far as having that overall speed, I think you're definitely still going to be able to carry that.
Then taking a restart back in 32nd. Of course, he made a reference to the car on the inside. That reference was to the 10 of Steven Wilson, who was a part of that one. Wilson restarting on the inside of row number 3. Let's try it again, though, with the pace car off and in, and Parker White back up front and in control. Green flag in the air. Good jump on the bottom. Donovan Strauss and the 10 of Wilson in tow as they try to get through the gears. Three wide already. Back there, center of it all is Michael Cozy Jr. sandwiched between Timmy Holmes on the bottom and the 14. Look at that move. Kerwin to the inside.
4 wide. Bolin going to try to make it stick on the bottom, and he's going to be able to at least clear Timmy Holmes. He's still got Cozy in front of him, who's on those old tires. Again, not as old. Those heat cycles are going to help the drivers that stayed out. Bolin able to get to the top right in front of Timmy Holmes. And this is where I think you're going to start to see a lot of those guys who tried to stay out, make the old tires work. It is just not going to pan out for them as they continue to fall back. But they have the opportunity to pit under this green flag run, and maybe that's where they'll make up the time. But for now, they're just going to have to try and keep up.
You're on board there with Tucker Minter. He started in the number 11 spot. He runs P12. Let's go on board with the Logitech onboard camera. And up front, it is all Williams Esports with a 1-2 run as we go now with the 53 and the 51 car. Parker White, Donovan Strauss, but Brian LaPrade trying to break things up. That 88 car looking topside, one of the bigger movers in the field, up 13 spots, trying to crack the top 2.
And LaPrade, both of the junior motorsports cars have been very fast, been able to make a lot of moves on the high side. Those cars roll really well up there, but we're seeing things kind of trend the other way. We saw early on the leaders who are all kind of running that 4th and 5th lane. It looks like it's kind of transitioned a little bit where they're trying to run, I guess, what would be the more traditional line at Michigan on iRacing, 1st, 2nd lane, all of this. It looks to be kind of where that grip is. And speaking to a number of these guys, particularly in 3 and 4, I think as the race goes on, that very bottom lane right next to the yellow line is something I don't think we'll see for another couple of laps. But late in the race, a couple drivers told me they expect a number of competitors to be running right down next to the yellow line in 3 and 4. It's not going to be the case in 1 and 2, but for some reason they really seem to think there's going to be a lot of grip later in the race down to that area of the racetrack.
There's the onboard look with both of those Williams machines as we are quickly approaching halfway, which would be lap number 35 in this race. Still all single file until you get back to these cars right here. Wyatt Tinsley down on the inside of the 22 of Femi Alton-Boson. That battle for 9th and 10th goes in favor of the 20. He'll pull back up in line, single file it out as they're 3 wide behind them for a moment. thought Alt was going to go down under the 27 bias, opted not to. And in front of them, Daniel Falkenham is that Green Interstate Batteries car trying to go inside of Kerwin. Can't get the speed off of the corner, and that'll give advantage Duval on the outside.
Talk about the strong cars here today. Dylan Duval's probably had one of the fastest cars that we've seen, regardless of the track position that he's had. He's been able to carve through, make a lot of different lanes work for him. And again, with the fact that, yes, these drivers had the ability to accrue all of these different playoff points throughout the running of the season, it's still something that can easily be overcome in a race. Think of the year that Steven Wilson had. He won all these races. He won a couple of the segment championships, but yet it's still only a 20-point advantage that he has over, the drivers that weren't able to accrue any playoff points. And most of them got here by virtue of a win. So it's really tight. Again, 15, 20 points, that's not nothing. That's a big advantage to have, as we see a lot of close battling further back in the pack. Talked about Vicente Salas and the damage that he had. Doesn't look like it's slowing him up all too much. And, oh, that's going to slow him up. He spins off at 2. Is he off the racing surface? No, as Vicente Salas gets a tag out of turn 2, and caution will be out. But luckily for him, talked about the lack of damage on that car. It looks like he's able to keep that despite the spin.
He was so close as that car got turned to getting T-boned by the 6 of Holmes, but somehow avoids major damage again, although it is the second major setback in the race for Vicente, who, when we checked in with him, was running right in the middle of the field in P20. Struggling a little bit back there in traffic, of course, trying to drive back through the field, and he was running just behind fellow playoff competitor Nick Ottinger, who has been awfully quiet tonight. Let's watch this exit at turn 2 again.
That looks like Salas tried to perhaps, Ottinger was a little slow in front of him, and I think he wanted to get up. He saw the car behind him with some momentum, wanted to get to the top side to be able to carry that draft down the straightaway. And I just think he thought he was clear of Tyler Gary, but Gary gets a little tight, a little bit high, and just doesn't have a great exit of the corner. So Salas makes a split-second move, just barely misjudges it. But again, lucky for him that he spins, but it's not any worse than that. You see Ottinger really struggles, gets in Bowden's dirty air. Yeah, Salas, I think, anticipated the 42 having just a normal corner exit, and just by a mere few inches just was barely not clear. Gets enough contact to send him around.
We've seen a lot of the drivers up towards the front of the field make those aggressive moves, sliding up in line when there's barely an inch or two to spare. And, of course, Vicente going to be incentivized to be aggressive to get through the field after dropping back to P20 after the first spin. He will have to hit the reset button and do it all over again. That'll drop him to the rear. Decent amount of cars, though, Blake, onto pit road this time, about a dozen or so. Some who have pitted already, some who have not yet pitted in this race, all coming down towards the back of the field.
These cars are quiet, trying to save a lot of fuel, I would imagine, if you're staying out at this point. Again, we kind of pointed out at the top of the show, it was 39, 44 laps, somewhere in that range. And maybe, perhaps with the help of a caution or two, this is where you can get to where you're not just good, but you also have to think about how many races we've had this year that have gone to overtime. It's not just perhaps aiming for that lap 70 marker. You're thinking a little bit ahead of that. You have to make sure that you're good perhaps to 75, 78 based off of what we've seen, I guess, the last number of weeks with a lot of these late race situations, putting these guys, beyond the scheduled distance and into overtime.
Haven't mentioned Kwame Scott tonight, but the 36 machine, 7 laps down, P40, the only driver off of the lead lap at the moment, as that car is down and off of the pit lane once more as he continues to get that machine serviced. Other than that, looking to restart with 39 drivers on the lead lap. Parker White has led more laps than anybody else tonight as we roll across the stripe. It'll be 18 laps led for him thus far. We've seen Dylan Duval lead 11, and Dylan Alt has led 4. Those 3 different drivers, the only drivers to have led laps so far in this race. And Brian LaPrad's did a good job of going through the field. Blake started 16th position. He ends up P2 now on this cycle. He's been somebody who's been real aggressive, trying to vie for a top spot. Also, Donovan Strauss has been up there with his teammate, but to give him a shout out as well after starting 14th, he's done a good job of picking up some spots.
Again, so many drivers that are running up towards the front of this field, Strauss being one of them, that were just so close to missing out on a playoff berth. Is again, just a tough situation for them to be in. Many of those guys, they're in a pretty good points position in terms of keeping their spot in this series. Kerwin right now, as far as a relegation cut, I mean, he's nearly 90 points ahead of 21st in the standings. So Kerwin just has a solid couple of races in front of him. He's going to have nothing to worry about. Honeycutt and Cozy are pretty much in the same positions, but gets a little bit tighter. You get a little bit further down. Jimmy Mullis, Jordy Lopez, Colin Keister, a couple of those guys we'll have to keep our eyes on, including Donovan Strauss, who started the year real strong, trying to stay in the top 20.
With Parker White leading the way, he, Duval, and Falkenham, the highest three running playoff drivers in the field right now, the only three playoff drivers in their first playoff appearance. Pace car off it in. Let's see what White can do from up front. Good restart, no surprise there with his teammate in tow. And Duval aggressively cuts under the 51 of Strauss. LaPrade to the outside. Breaks up some of the Williams synergy on the front row as Duval takes over second. And now Strauss crosses back to the inside. No match, though, for the big push coming on the outside. Duval to the inside for the lead.
Kerwin made an aggressive move behind him. Does it work out? Is he's going to try to at least get up in front of that 51 to Donovan Strauss? No. Again, that's how big of a run you can have, but if you can't quite clear, that's how difficult it can be. As Falkingham looks like he's able to get up in line just behind them. Wilson's trying to hold Strauss at bay. He's going to do the same thing that Kerwin just did, try to take that run into one, but look how many cars he can drive by with all that momentum on the bottom. If he can get up in front of DeMerchant, that's 2 spots, and it looks like he's able to get it.
Getting up in front is clear, and now he kind of gets the push down the back straightaway, resets on speed, and gets to go again. Now looking to the inside of LaPrade. He is not going to get clear of the 88 in the center of the corner. Can he get to both of them? No. Wilson parks it on the left rear quarter panel of the leader, and does this open the door for somebody? I thought maybe LaPrade was going to try to blow by both of them. Instead, he'll give a push to White topside, and they hit 201 miles an hour, all lined up on the outside of the racetrack. LaPrade takes P2 back. Wilson resets in third, and I'm sure he'll try again.
Again, incredible to see the speed that he has as we take a look back at a driver that's been struggling throughout the running of this race. Been looking at the leaderboard, the differing strategies. Where has Nick Ottinger been? Well, he's found himself up into the 12th position, started back in around the 30th position, and even when I looked a little bit earlier, he was back in 36th, 37th. He had lost a little bit of ground since the start of this race, but it finds himself in a much better position, trying to take advantage of the fact that so many cars are starting to stack up there on the top side, and a good rebound effort here. Again, you can never write off Nick Ottinger in these races. He's just too good and been around for too long to really be written off. But doing a great job right now, making the most of a tough qualifying effort that can be really tough to come back from.
And Nick right now 15th on the racetrack, but that is only 8th best of the 10 playoff cars. He's got 7 in front of him. Up front, new race leader Brian LaPrade took it away from Parker White, but will it be short-lived? Because here comes the defending series champ in Steven Wilson. Down to the inside in 1 and 2. Pulls up is clear, and for the first time tonight, Wilson to the top spot as we work lap number 39.
Talked about all the fast cars that we've seen out here tonight, but just look at the speed that Wilson's able to carry through the center. I mean, it's remarkable. Look how he's just able to drive away from everybody through the center and just has perfect handling. He can get back to the throttle. Everybody will catch him with the draft down the straightaways, but if he can keep that speed up in the center, it is for nothing. As Graham Boland, playoff driver, through the grass. We're going to stay green with 31 laps to go, but a huge huge issue for one of our playoff contenders.
Yeah, that's big. He was P12 the last time we crossed the start-finish line. There's no caution for Bolin going through the grass, but he drops down to 38th position. A huge loss of track position for Bolin, but this race stays green. Wilson had an opportunity to lead a lap up front. Now LaPrade passes him back once more. They're still 3 and 4 wide. Let's watch it again with Bolin. That's Duval in the center, 3 wide, a bit of a touch. Looks like Duval came down, hip checked the 48 car, and very fortunate for Bolin, Blake, the fact that that's a really deep front straightaway bend, and there was a lot of grass for him to use. Didn't have to worry about getting into an inside wall, and was able to gather it back up.
Again, nothing that he could do right there. Duval gets a little bit of a shot there from Tinsley off the corner, and just whenever that situation pops up, it's usually just going to be that car that's on the bottom that gets the worst end of it. Great save. Unfortunately for Bolin, though, loses a ton of times, going to lose the draft, and he's kind of relying on something crazy going on up here, which we still see a lot of 2 and 3 wide throughout the field, but up front, much more orderly as it's now Briar LaPrade. Again, never won in this series. We've had a lot of first-time winners recently. Could he be somebody that plays spoiler to this party, goes to victory lane for the first time? Right now, he got by Wilson, and it seems like Steven, for the moment, content to ride in line to try and push. Also, Bobby Zielinski, what a drive he's had, and Tucker Minter. Haven't mentioned him a lot tonight, but right in the thick of things when it matters, trying to make a move for second, 4 wide behind them. There's a lot of smoke, there's a lot of contact, but somehow we keep it going.
I don't know how much longer this is going to go with the racing on the bottom of the screen. 4 wide again with the 5 and Novak to the very inside. Malik Ray right above him as well. They are fanned out using every square inch of the corners here at MIS, and still 4 wide behind the leaders. The top 24 cars are within 1 second of your race leader, Briar LaPrade.
And if you're a photographer here in the session, this is when you get your pictures that you're going to use for the website for the next couple of years. Everybody's so close, trying to figure out which lane's moving. Is anybody stacking up? Is anybody going to make a mistake? And then, again, this is why these drivers are the best in the world, right? You go into any A-Fix session, you're not going to see guys being able to run these all around the racetrack this close for so many laps. We got guys sliding around, people cutting each other off, making moves, and yet here we're still going strong, but I don't know how much longer it can last.
I referenced earlier, the draft's going to be a big issue. We'll hold that thought because there is the caution. Oh, and we're still wrecking. What a save after the yellow for Taylor Hurst.
My goodness.
I thought for sure we were going to see another wreck. That was well after the yellow had come out, and then Hurst saves the race car to avoid further catastrophe. Meanwhile, the actual cause of the yellow was with Caden Honeycutt, whose night started so well, but through some of the pit cycles ended up stuck in the mid-20s, and as we saw from watching it, that has been a very dangerous spot in the field to be. We'll take an opportunity to step aside. When we come back, closing in on 20 laps to go from Michigan. It's still anybody's race, but right now it's the 88 car of Briar LaPrade playing spoiler up front. Steven Wilson, the defending series champ, the highest playoff car in second.
Every time you sit behind the wheel, you buckle up for the unexpected. You get ready to take on the competition and brace yourself for the chaos, the speed, the weather, the unknown. But above all, when strapping in, you put trust in yourself, your intuition. Make it your guide to win, your drive to win.
He's a winner in this.
And nothing is going to stop you from winning.
When you want to be the best, you can't settle for the rest. For anything on iRacing, there's just one name you need, Makoni.
We now provide the best of the best in setups, paint schemes, coaching, broadcasting, and event organization.
With cars across all 4 license classes, we have what you need to hit the track with confidence. Grab a subscription and save money while going fast at McConeySetupShop.com/subscriptions.
And remember, at McConey Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
Coverage of tonight's race is brought to you by Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. Is it the best Coke ever? Try and decide. By McConey Setup Shop. Our setups, your victories. By Sunoco. From fueling your favorite NASCAR teams to filling up at the pump, Sunoco is trusted to help vehicles perform at their peak. Sunoco, performance is what we do. By Exocross. Take on a literally out-of-this-world racing challenge featuring wild off-road terrain, powerful open-wheel vehicles, slipstream power boosts, and unparalleled handling. Exocross, available now. And by Logitech G. Celebrating Logi Play Days now through August 17th. Get 10% off all Logitech G products at participating retailers. Another caution flag falls to the wayside, and up front it is now Bobby Zelensky in control. Green flag in the air with 23 laps to go.
Again, a number of these drivers up front, 4.5 seconds in the box would imply about a fuel-only stop to me. So we'll see if it works out. Top 4 all have red numbers on the roof. Let's see if they can keep it rolling. Duval in third right now, trying to get up in line. He's going to be able to successfully do so. He's got Ottinger along with him. Daniel Falkingham, P6, getting a challenge from Ray. They're 3 wide there. They're 4 wide behind him.
4 wide, now 5 wide, and in the middle of it all is Vicente Salas, who has been through the ringer tonight. He gets into the middle of the 23. That's Falkingham, who's out of shape. There goes Ottinger. Nick Ottinger spins. Salas is in it. Huge accident that takes out several playoff contenders.
And we knew that this could happen at Michigan with everybody bunched up like this, and it's tough to happen, but this spells out a completely different postseason for a number of these drivers that have the next 2 races to try and recover from. Deep points deficit. It's going to be wins at this point that may have to be their only way into the championship 4.
Some frustration from a lot of the drivers involved. Over the radio, thought maybe we were going to be able to get away with it. Let's wind it back. And again, there are big implications for everybody in this field to qualify, but you're looking for the drivers in red as the playoff drivers. It starts right here around that 54 of Falkingham. Gets loose, comes down the hill, saves it, and then Ottinger's going to get turned right there. The 17 gets into him. He goes across the track, and that's where it gets really messy.
Just about to say an incredible save from Daniel Falkingham. Gets out of shape. They're 4 wide. They keep the momentum going. And, yeah, just never got unhooked when he and that 17 got stuck together. Never got separated. And, unfortunately, I mean, there's about 15, perhaps 20 cars that get some form of damage. A number of them with the lot. You're going to see Bowden trying to push Nick. Nick barely comes down the racetrack, and when he goes back up, I'm sure he thought that he was there and that the 17 was lined up with him. They're just enough offset that it ends up spinning him out. Falkingham does get tagged right there at the end, but it looks like he was able to make it out okay.
Here's on board with Parker White, and he may get lucky in this as well. Up top, all those cars come piling in. He takes a shot there, but far worse could have happened to that car as he's able to drive away from it. Amidst all the chaos, again, you saw that third look there was Falkingham eventually getting into the 80 car of Luza as he swerved to avoid getting hooked by the 11. That was one of the conversations on the radio. Falkingham, I'm sure, will trade off that contact for getting T-boned, but again, it sets him back, and with not a lot of time left in this race, all these accidents become quite consequential, and there's still a lot of red towards the front of the field, but not necessarily some of the names that we've been used to seeing at the front tonight, Blake, as you've got Nick Ottinger.
Nick, you drove your way up through the field. You're battling there with all that chaos going on. You get a little bit of a bad bump, or just what happened there from your perspective?
I just got turned on the straight. I don't know any other way to put it. I mean, you got some clueless damn drivers out here. That's just typical stuff. That's the package we got, man. This is what the fans enjoy. So, we're just going to keep plugging along here, try to fix this damage. I mean, we got put 4 wide. That's kind of typical here. But, I mean, some of the racing etiquette is just, it gets in question at this time of races, and especially playoff time. I mean, you're trying to obviously battle for points and everything like that, and yeah, I don't know. Some clueless stuff, that's all I can tell you.
Although this race isn't entirely over, still 2 races left beyond this one. How do you feel about Texas, Phoenix, a couple of those races coming up if this looks like it may not end in such a great points effort for you?
I think it'd be better if you had tracks that could, ultimately have some racing. I mean, I think you're going to see the same stuff at Texas, and then you're going to see a lot of bumper tagging at Phoenix. So, I mean, obviously we're a little frustrated right now, but I mean, what are you going to do when you have this type of racing that's all over each other constantly every single lap? So these are the cards we're dealt. We do what we can, and we'll just show up.
All right, Nick, thanks for talking to us.
Appreciate it, man.
Take another look at this incident, and again, watching that 54 of Daniel Falkenham, where we were kind of sure this was all going to kick off from. Massive save. Eventually, Ottinger gets turned up the road. They're 4-5 wide. And then again, watch the white 11 coming down the hill. He makes a last-second kind of abandonment effort to the left to avoid it. Does get into Luza. Luza was frustrated about that contact, but it may have saved the race car for the 54 of Falkenham. And Blake, I know we're coming to the green, but we're seeing a lot of pack racing. How does the draft here at a place like Michigan compare to a Daytona or a Talladega?
I mean, honestly, it kind of works out the same with what we've seen, how these cars kind of funnel out on the straightaways, the fact that these cars, they have a lot of drag on them, so they punch a pretty big hole in the air. And the moves that we see are kind of akin to what we would see at a super speedway. So very similar in terms of, yes, you got to live for these corners, but where you are on the straightaways and those runs you get are just as important.
This time it's going to be with 18 laps to go on the scoring to pylon. Green flag in the air. It is a mammoth restart for Bobby Zelensky. He's a mile out in front as they get to turn 1. He goes up the hill to arc into the corner. Behind him, side by side for a second. Minter on the inside. Duval on the outside. Behind them, it's Garrett Lowe, P4. All playoff cars in those top 4 spots. But now here comes DeMerchant.
Again, it seems like on these restarts, that outside line faring very, very well as it is close. That 88 of LaPrade, Cozy, Zach Novak. Again, Novak not competing for a championship, but a former series champion on his own right. 4 wide off the corner. Leahy into the wall. He collects it up. That checks up the outside line. Kerwin all the way to the bottom as they're still 3 and 4 wide into turn 1.
Minter was aggressive up top in the blue number 97 car to get in line. Big hit there as Michael Guest gets into the 5 and Novak. That condenses things as well. And now we're going to the apron trying to make passes down the back straightaway using more than the entire width of this racing surface. We are 4 and 5 wide, several rows deep in the middle of this hornet's nest.
And all these guys, again, you can see them all getting so tight off of 4, one after the other. They push up into the wall. Something else with this race, that outside lane going to lose grip just overall as the sun goes down and as these drivers continue to wear in that groove. That's something that a number mentioned to me. The bottom's going to gain grip. The top is going to lose it as the wrecking behind them. I believe it was the 80 that was into the wall. It is indeed going to bring out a caution.
Second one in a row that Ryan Luza gets a piece of. And I think he had some help in this one. We'll wait to look at it again. Quick analysis. Luza involved. The good front end damage on the 55 machine of Ryan Doucette, but I don't see any of those red numbered playoff drivers involved. Falkenham and Ottinger driving away from the scene. Looked like they were relatively uninvolved. Let's watch this one back. It happened in turns 1 and 2.
Get a breakdown here. Yep, you can see contact between the 3 and the 80. Lose out of shape. He's trying to save it the whole time. And honestly, probably getting the worst into that. Nowhere to go for the 55 of Ryan Doucette. As again, we kind of saw a little bit of the top 20 or so starting to break away against so many of these cars at the back of the field. These cautions are helping them. They're not quite able to keep up. They still have a little bit of damage to try and get fixed. So these yellows, you see a lot of cars in the back of the field on pit road. It's exactly what they want, to be able to have a car that at least in the last few laps they can contend with, and they're able to get about a minute or so, or perhaps a little bit more fixed every single restart or every single caution that we have. So this is definitely helping those drivers out. There's no way Minter's pit. Wow, Minter's pitting. That is a
save from P7.
Wow, that is something I did not expect this late in the game.
There are so many different strategies. Minter was last on pit road 40 laps ago. Blake Zelensky, who's leading, 35 laps ago. Duval, who's second, 41 laps ago. Briar LaPrade in third went 9th to 3rd on that last restart, having last been on pit road 10 laps ago. So there has been some sort of surge by some of the cars who had pitted more recently. I'm curious if that influences Minter's decision. In the end, it's about half of the field that comes down pit road, but Minter's certainly the highest up in the running order and one of the only playoff cars if you exclude Nick Ottinger, who's back there with damage.
It's wild to think about. And again, if you want to find out more of everything that's going on in eNASCAR, both in this series and beyond, a lot of exciting things coming up. The College Series coming back in the fall semester. If you want to find out about all of that information and more, you can scan the QR code on the right-hand side of your screen. And, of course, you can sign up with the official simulation partner of NASCAR in iRacing.
It really is a year-round thing in the world of eNASCAR. You mentioned the College Series, of course, the eNASCAR Qualified iRacing Series ongoing. Eventually, the top 20 drivers from that series will face off against the bottom 20 drivers in the standings from this series in what is known as the Contender Series. That series happens in the off-season, in which we will requalify the top 20 finishers from that into the grid for this championship in 2025. So it never slows down, and I think that is a good point to reiterate that even though it is a battle for those 10 drivers with a championship on the line, the other 30 drivers still have something to fight for because they need to finish top 20 in the points to stay locked in, to get your seat guaranteed for this series in 2025. Otherwise, that relegation battle in the Contender Series is going to be a heck of a fight, and nobody wants to have to go back down there through the relegation ladder and try it all over again. You mentioned, we talked about Nick Ottinger. He said it's kind of a part of this where, what do you expect to happen when everybody's this aggressive, Blake? And obviously we see everybody making the big moves to the outside, to the inside. Is there anywhere when you're 4 or 5 wide in the racing like this where you can be safer, or when everybody's this aggressive, is everybody kind of at an equal amount of risk?
Well, I would say that with the fact that we're going to be packed up pretty much from here to the end, everybody's going to be bunched on top of each other. The safe route is usually the bottom of the track. The wrecks tend to wash up, and we see everybody kind of fighting for that outside line. We see a lot of stack-ups out there. So as far as what's safe, it's probably rolling bottom. As far as what's faster, it just depends on the situation, the line that you're in, the draft that you have around you, how everybody's pushing. But if you want to try and avoid the incidents, I'd say kind of rip the bottom here and see what happens.
We'll see if the game of high-speed red light, green light continues. If it does, not a lot of restarts left in the tank, coming to 12 laps to go this time by. Again, up front, Zelensky and Duval have been out there for more than 35 laps. They've got a lot of cars with fresh tires lined up behind them. Green flag flies. It is not a good restart for Duval. That Nitro Circus 41 car going to get passed for second, as up on the inside goes that green 88 car Novak follows. Novak looks underneath, trying to get there in P2.
The battle is going to be, out of all those cars that came down in pit, who is going to be able to get clear first. We see Wilson right there, kind of in the middle of all of that sandwich. Parker White trying to do the same as well. And on this overhead shot, you could see really well who's got speed, who's able to carry it through the corner. Parker White doing a tremendous job trying to get up into the top 5, as a number of our playoff drivers, again, they're all kind of racing each other despite the fact there are 30 other cars on the racetrack. Many of them pit. Zielinski loses the lead. LaPrade to the top spot. And now he and Jimmy Mullis going to battle it out as we continue to see, can the tires make their way past these drivers that stayed out.
And here comes Parker White slicing ahead of the 18 of Zielinski. Parker White has better tires than both Mullis and LaPrade in front of him to the interval of about 5 laps. He'll go to the outside. First on the 29 of Mullis. Good run off of the corner, trying to find an opening between those two cars. But he had to get out of the gas a little bit, had to lift. Again, that battle for the lead was bottom right now, full screen. Behind them, fighting for the next man up spot in P4. Zielinski trying to hold off Graham Bolin, who's making a splash late. As we continue to watch, can Parker White just get clear of Mullis for second? Another corner in which he can't.
Shades of Pocono again. Graham Bolin, one of the best of those drivers that came down in pit. You could see Wilson getting shuffled back as, contact hard into the wall. He keeps it going straight, and now they're going to wreck in front of them. Caution is out. It was just about to talk about Graham Bolin just absolutely ripping through the field, and it looks like LaPrade for the lead. He's got a little bit of damage on the nose of that 88. That's going to slow him up as the race leader.
We'll wait to see where the caution actually comes from. You mentioned some hard contact to the outside wall as they went through the corner, and then several other drivers involved in this one. Again, I did not immediately see any of those drivers with those red numbers involved, but again, that's not to say that all of these wrecks are not inconsequential for everybody else, because they could be the difference between driving in this series in 2025 or being relegated and not making it to the grid when we fight for this championship all over again sometime in February of next year. But that was certainly in the middle of where all the 4 and 5 wide was. It may spare LaPrade and Mullis because White was pounding on the door up front. This will at least take a couple laps of green flag racing out of it. Let's watch.
So, they're about 5 wide or so here. Minter's nearly down beneath the yellow line. So the 90's the first one that's into the wall. Then Minter gets up and into Garrett Maines, it looks like, as they were, again, 4 or 5 wide down there. So kind of 2 separate incidents that really didn't have anything to do with one another. Lopez gets destroyed for a second straight week. And then Maines, who, again, we kind of mentioned after he got hit by Steven Wilson, he was kind of making his way back up. He missed that huge wreck into 1. It was kind of on the mend. But looks like that rebound effort's going to be stalled again here with 8 to go.
Just trying to scroll back to see where that front end damage came for on the nose of the 88 machine. He's had it since about lap number 49 or so. Back to the accident into which we saw the big spin in contact with Ottinger and everybody, that big one. He checked up and kind of got into the back of Michael Cozy. So the 88 machine has been able to drive through this field kind of in spite of that damage. He's had it for some time, but of course now that he's up front and in the clean air, you mentioned maybe a little bit of a speed difference. Could be something the leader's dealing with, as you've got Parker White.
Again, a lot of times we've been able to chat with Parker White, finishing up in the top 3 at the end of these races. Parker, I know you want a little bit better, but with all the different tire strategies going on around, how do you try to manage the end of this race, and do you think you have something for the guys in front of you?
Yeah, out of everyone up here, I think I'm on the best strategy. I got caught up in that wreck there, and I think I only had like 50 seconds of damage, and I restarted 27th, and in one race, last one I went from like 13th to 3rd, so I just got to keep this forward momentum going, and I think I'll have a really good shot at winning this.
Had a number of issues with a ton of playoff drivers. I know you want the win, you want that shot to focus on Homestead Miami, but with the fact we see a lot of drivers highlighted in red that are towards the bottom, does that make you take it any easier, or do you think about trying to balance getting points here versus going after that win?
Not really. Like at this point in the race, I'm 3rd with 6 to go, and like if I could win this race, first race of playoffs, and that's going to be huge for me because I could just go like full focus on Homestead. So I'm really not too worried about them in the back. Just the main goal is to get the win here and try not to wreck, obviously.
All right, we'll see if you can do it. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Parker White in his first eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series playoffs right now sits as the highest running non-playoff driver in the field in that number 3 position. Graham Bolin is 6th, Steven Wilson 10th, Vicente Salas 11th, Tucker Minter 14th, Garrett Lowe 15th, Daniel Falkingham 18th, Bobby Zelensky 25th, Dylan Duvall 28th, Nick Ottinger 30th is the current running order for all those drivers in the playoffs. Again, you can find them with those red markings on the cars, but also highlighted in red on the scoring graphics on screen. It'll be 6 laps to go, this time by LaPrade and Mullis on the front row. And of those who pitted most recently, Zawak in 12th and then Minterlow 14th and 15th. Blake, they've got some work to do.
But again, all this time, it runs out when we get to these late race situations. But the one I got my eye on here, Graham Bolin, fresh tires. Does he have enough time to get by with LaPrade's damage?
See what he can do from row number 3. Green flag in the air with 6 laps to go at Michigan, and another great start for the inside. LaPrade for the lead. Contact for 3rd. Bolin getting pushed, gets into the door of Mullis as Parker White clear for P2. Now looking for the inside, going for the race lead.
Again, that inside line let LaPrade go. They wanted to roll up and push each other for that start. Bolin doesn't. Not going to work out for him. He loses the outside lane. He loses the draft. Salas, 90 degrees sideways. It's enough to throw the caution, but he saved it. My goodness.
Caution comes out, but Vicente Salas avoids maybe another catastrophic incident after he had driven back into the top 12 after everything that Salas has been through tonight. He continues to try to bounce back time after time. It'll be the 3rd yellow that he's involved in, but like to your point, what a save. He's, I think, going to be happy that it wasn't another wreck.
Again, it was enough to trigger the caution flag, and he still saved it. A tremendous job trying to keep his playoff hopes alive. But one man that's not worried about that right now, it's all about getting that first career win potentially for Briar LaPrade, who fought his way back into the series in 2024. 5 to go, Briar. I know a lot's happening behind you. It's kind of going through your mind right now.
I don't know. Once again, like a Talladega, I was running 3rd. I'm scared, Blake, so we're going to try and just hang on, man. I think the front end's a little hurt. I don't know. I'm just going to do anything I can to win this race. We've seen what happened on Sunday night, and we've seen old Jimmy Mullis versus Garrett Lowe at Nashville. So, I mean, it's not for a playoff spot, but I'd like to get my first win. You got to do anything you can to try and win. I really want it. I really want it. So we're going to try hard. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But yeah, I've worked my ass off trying to get up here, and I think it's time to try and make it happen.
Now you've been fast all night. We'll see if you can hold on for another few laps and become yet another first-time winner, Briar.
He's looking to become the 68th different race winner in series history and may need only one more restart to do so in order to get the job done. Let's wind it back and take another look at the replay with the 11 and the 33.
Well, it just looked like, again, we know these guys get so close to the driver next to them because they want a side draft, and I think that's just a case of Taylor Hurst trying to lay as close as he can to the door of the 11, and eventually you can get a great vantage point. Yeah, just goes up, and Salas, he has nowhere to go. He's got a car on his outside, and again, a tremendous job to save it. A great job by the rest of the field being heads up and avoiding Vicente Salas. We've seen that a number of times tonight, that we have a lot of single car incidents that probably shouldn't be. But yeah, Salas, nothing he could do in that instance.
You saw a couple of those drivers, playoff cars, get by Salas as he saved it. Minter, Falkingham, Zelensky all passing Salas. Remember, he was 11th when the contact happened. Looks like he's being scored now 24th. So not all the way to the rear of the field, but a good chunk of track position is lost for Vicente. And again, he'll have to hope that he can make it back up. We are not heading into extra time. It'll be a natural green-white checker finish. Coming to the restart with 2 laps to go. As always, if we get to the white flag, this race is official. It's no holds bar, and first back to the checkered flag wins, potentially getting themselves into the championship 4. On the other hand, if we do get a caution before we complete a 2-mile trip around this D-shaped oval, then we will head officially into eNASCAR overtime, where we have 3 additional attempts. You mentioned some of the gamesmanship, Blake, on the front row there with Briar LaPrade and others. If you're a Parker White from row number 2, what's the move here that maybe gets you a chance to win this?
Well, I think Briar just kind of said it with what we saw a couple of days ago. We know that there's so much on the line. Again, a free shot to potentially battling for life-changing money for these young drivers, $100,000, and all of that could be with a bump, a nudge, or any of the above. Trying to make a move for a driver that, yes, wants to win, fight for points, all of those things, but doesn't have a shot at a title. There's a lot of non-playoff drivers up at the front, so we'll see how they settle it.
Jimmy Mullis looking to play spoiler in search of career race win number 7. Briar LaPrade in control, also looking to play spoiler in search of career race win number 1. Parker White, only playoff car in the top 7. He restarts on the inside of row 2 and 3rd. Green flag in the air. 2 laps to go at Michigan. Good jump for LaPrade. He gets clear, leads into turn number 1. White to the inside of Mullis, side by side P2.
The last thing LaPrade needs is for White to get clear out of 2, and that's exactly what he's going to do. He's going to be able to get up in front of Jimmy Mullis. They'll form up. White's going to have the run. Mullis looking to the inside. LaPrade's going to have to make his car wide. This is where that nose damage is really going to start hurting him into 3 and 4 this time.
Like White thought about blocking, let Mullis get to the inside. 29 car can't get the speed through the corner, but they're going to be stuck side by side for a second. Here comes Kerwin, 3 wide to the inside for a second. White flag in the air. This race is official.
This is exactly what LaPrade needs. 4 wide behind them as Honeycutt tries to make the move on the bottom, but Kerwin, a great drive through the corner. They'll be side by side on the back straightaway.
White's got to run, but nowhere to go. Parker White going to push the 88 of LaPrade on the outside line. They've got all the momentum. LaPrade clear of the 77 of Kerwin on the inside. Now here comes Parker White to the outside. The 88 of LaPrade slides up into his door. They're going to beat and bang, lock together all the way to the finish line. Who gets it at Michigan? Briar LaPrade, by 3/1000ths of a second, gets his first career eNASCAR win and plays spoiler over Parker White. And the reaction in the bottom right tells you that you cannot say that these races don't mean anything if you're not a top 10 championship driver, because Briar LaPrade makes history. And he gets his first career eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series win. You can see how much it means to him. The congratulations pour in from the other drivers, both in the sim and on the radio. And a celebration that he has waited his whole life for. This winning moment is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. Let's take a look at your Coca-Cola move of the race. It looked like on maybe 3 or 4 different occasions, Blake, that somebody was going to snatch it from him, but Briar LaPrade was able to hold on for those 2 laps to the end. It's the restart to 2 to go.
And again, so important that he got a great jump. He's able to get clear of Jimmy Mullis's side draft here. And fortunately, through this first lap, everything kind of plays out the way he needed to. They stay side by side behind them. That's going to slow both lanes down. White got clear. And this is where I thought that Breyer was really in trouble. You can see the nose damage. He's going to be slower down the straightaway. White's got the momentum, but luckily Mullis goes down to the inside. White doesn't block it, and this sets up, again, 3 and 4 wide down the front straightaway, which is, again, exactly what he wanted to see.
And the 53 and the 29 going to kind of get locked together here side by side for second, and then it really opens things up. There goes the 77 to the inside. They're 3 wide for second at this moment, and then another big run as the 8 car Honeycutt tried to insert himself into the conversation. He went to the bottom 4 wide, but then it's when Parker White gets this run off the corner. He's got nowhere to go. The 77 and nose in front for the lead until White pushes LaPrade back ahead.
Yeah, that was perfect. LaPrade blocks the perfect lane, and right here, Parker White, you can see desperation here. Doesn't make contact. LaPrade's expecting it, drives it in deep. LaPrade up the racetrack, perhaps a little bit of a nudge, and right here, you're just locked together. Kerwin almost has influence, or could, over who gets pushed to the line, but White was just never able to gain the momentum necessary to try and chase him back down.
Let's move to the Sunoco post-race report, where Blake is with the newest race winner in series history.
The 68th different winner in eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series history is Manchester, Tennessee's Breyer LaPrade. Breyer, we saw the emotion of how long you've been trying to go after this, how long this journey has been. What does being a Coke Series winner finally mean to you?
It means a lot. Like I said, I worked really hard since 2016 to just try and work my way through the ranks and just have fun doing what I love, and that's racing. It's been a long journey from lockdown racing. Everybody over there helped me out for a long time. I mean, a long time. Jump shipped quite a bit. And everyone, Team Conti, for helping me out. I know we've had some struggles this year, man, but they're a good group of guys, and they push you to be so good, man. They push you hard. I can't believe I'm a Coke Series winner, honestly. It's just unreal. You gotta shout out Cameron Ledford with Ledford Billiard Supply. It's a long time partnership. And I'm just glad it paid off. Because that's been another thing. It's just been a long time deal. Make sure you check them out at LedfordBilliardSupply.com for your pool tables and all that good stuff. We're a race winner now, so maybe we can get some race winner merch going. I don't know. The streak of the 88, the curse, has been broken finally, man. I'm so happy to be the one to do that. Sorry if I'm rambling, but I just can't believe it. There's, like I said, it's been a long journey, and there's a lot of people to thank. Also, my mom, my dad, my sister. Dad's been going through health trouble, so he's been down, and I hope this picks him up. But yeah. That's it. I'll let you guys ask another question so I can kind of gather myself, you know?
Well, I was about to say, Breyer, again, you've been in this community for a really long time. You're one of the good guys, and it's great to see people who have invested for so long and been trying as long as you have to finally get the job done. The only thing I wanted to ask you again is being able to come back and have a second shot of this after falling out a year ago. Junior Motorsports brings it back. How awesome is it to carry, I know you mentioned so many people that have supported you, but to have their support and be able to do this for somebody like Dale Earnhardt Jr., how special is that?
Yeah, it's awesome. I got to thank Dale and Kelly and everybody at Junior Motorsports, Steve and Stefan, Ron. It's a family over there. They treat you really well. It's awesome to win in the number 88 for Junior Motorsports, and to break that curse is awesome for sure, man. And thank you for. I really try to be a good guy on here and race clean. I think that was pretty clean. I had to do what I had to do to win, like I said. So wasn't as bad as Sunday night, but I think I did pretty good trying to be a good guy there, going for a win. As much as I say I'm going to do whatever it takes. But, yeah, thank you for saying that, because I try really hard to be respectful and a good guy on here for sure.
All right, well, I can already see the Discord notifications on your left monitor there. I'm sure there's a lot of people reaching out to you. So, Briar, we'll let you go enjoy this. Congratulations. We're proud of you. And go enjoy this one, man. You're a Coke Series winner.
Thank you, guys.
So Briar LaPrade gets his first career Coke Series win. I know we talk about playoffs a lot, but after seeing that post-race interview, I think that can be lost here for just a second. But Parker White comes up just a bit shy in that one. I know you mentioned being aggressive there at the end and what might happen there, but just kind of walk us through that last lap, trying to get by Briar. You drive it in really hard into 3 and 4. Did you think you had it won there?
Yeah, I felt really confident in my car. Like I said before, when I was talking under caution, I felt like my car was like just completely on rails. I wasn't sliding the tires at all. So just to be in that position, that was really all I could ask for. Just not give up my right rear there on that green white checkered. And I got a big push there down the back, was able to push Briar, and Briar getting clear was really all I needed. And that's exactly what he did. He drove it to the bottom, and like you said, I just completely sent it in. I knew my car would stick, and it did that. And looking back on it, I really couldn't have done anything different there. Briar did a very good job, and I saw him say in his interview he didn't know if it was clean. It was definitely 100% clean. Like, to see Briar get a win in this series, that's pretty awesome. Like, I've known Briar for quite a long time now, so I'm very happy to see him get that win.
Well, and you're the first finisher of our playoff contenders. You come in 20 points behind the top runner in Steven Wilson in terms of playoff points, because you didn't carry any in here without a win, but you're basically going to come out in a position where you're in points position to advance. So talk about your approach the next couple of races, Texas, Phoenix, having that in the back of your mind and taking this very important first step. Yeah,
and another very important aspect of this is Briar, who's on the playoffs, he won the race. So now these next 2 races, the most 2 playoff guys could win, and there'd only be 2 drivers in the championship 4 that have a win. So as we saw in the regular season, I was very good at points racing, and as of now, I'm third in the standings for the playoffs, so I'd be in right now. So just looking at how I did this race tonight, I'm very happy with it, and just I'll be able to carry this momentum into I think we go to Texas next, and that's been a pretty good try for me in the past, so just going to try to do the same thing I did here tonight, just try to come up just 3 thousandths more.
All right, Parker, I know we say this every time that we part, but again, I know that it's coming soon. You've been in position so many times. 6th top 5 of the season. We'll see if you got more on hand. Great run tonight, and congratulations on 2nd.
Yeah, just real quick, thanks to WMG Sports as well. Just everyone at FR as well. Thank you.
Great work by that group on the Sunoco post-race report. We'll turn our attention to our 3rd-place finisher tonight in Casey Kerwin. Again, was the top driver in terms of the cut line in relegation, and does a great service in that regard and keeping your advantage over there. But Casey, that was kind of a crazy end to that race. Did you think there that last lap or so, with those moves being made, that you had a shot if you take a dive or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I felt like the move I made down the front, I think if I pushed one of them, I would have probably just been stuck in line behind them down the back. So I felt like the only chance was to try and dive to the bottom like I did and hopefully clear him, which I did, or was going to. And then just at the same time with how low I entered, I kind of just got into that left rear air pocket of Briar, which shoved him up the track, which obviously was nice to. We had the lead for like half a second, but it like backed Briar up to Parker perfectly, where they just hauled by us down the straightaway. So, but yeah, I mean, it was a really good race. We were in a lot of chaos all night, and without my season's gone, the amount of bad luck we've had, I feel like there's so many top 5s and top 10s that we should have on the board and should be in the playoffs. But to survive all that and get a good finish, I'm not going to complain. But yeah, obviously sucks a little bit to be a few spots short.
Now we have a couple races left in the season. You're probably in a position where you can safely say the top 20 is not even going to be a concern. So what is the approach the next couple weeks? Is it just trying to go after and build up that pile of career wins?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think really the only thing we're in somewhat of a tight battle for is trying to stay 11th in points. I mean, and obviously score as many points as we can for Spire in the team championship. But yeah, I think after tonight, we're probably fairly well set on the top 20 deal. So I'm not going to do anything like crazy and like throw away a good run to go for a win or anything like that. But there's definitely no pressure. So yeah, it's just trying to do everything we can to get a win for Spire and GGT Energy before the year's out. Yeah, our car's been, I feel like, cursed through the middle part of the season, so hopefully this is the start to swing the momentum back. And, yeah, hopefully have a good final 3 races and try and put it in victory lane.
Well, the double number 88 curse was broken. We'll see at the 77. Can't do that in the next few weeks. Congratulations, Casey.
Thank you.
Well, that has been the Sunoco post-race report. A big thanks to our top finishers for chatting with us. And as we take a look at the playoff grid, Blake, notably, the column on the right stays empty. With no playoff race winner tonight means that nobody has locked themselves into the championship 4. And Briar LaPrade was quick to point out that that means there will be, at minimum, 2 points paying positions in. Parker White was very excited about that one. Briar playing spoiler, at least 2 points paying positions will be available into the championship 4. Let's take a look though at your race results. Again, we'll highlight those playoff cars. It is Briar LaPrade who gets his first career win. Parker White, the highest finishing playoff car, finishes in second. Graham Bolin P6 and Garrett Lowe in P8 are the 3 playoff cars in the top 10.
Yeah, Bolin going to leave here second in the point standings. How about KHI, a pair of their drivers in the top 5? So a great effort for that team. Couple of big moves at the end of this race. Garrett Baines, again, wrapped up in a lot of incidents early in the race. He's able to rebound for 15th place. Same with Taylor Hurst, Matthew Zwack. Daniel Falkingham, one of our playoff drivers, fortunately just got behind the 8-ball, lost his track position. Maintained his position through the spin, but again, 18th is tough when you're only taking 4-10.
And back here, more playoff names. Vicente Salas had a heck of a night. Hard to consider 21 a good finish, but after everything that happened to him, I think it could have been worse. Tucker Minter ends up in P26. Dylan Duval ends up in P28. And then the last of your playoff cars is Nick Ottinger, who finishes down in the number 31 position. By the time we get down to the end of this race, finishing with only the top 34 cars on the lead lap after several drivers were caught up in the myriad of incidents, kind of in that 2/3 of the way point of this race that take them out of it. But playoff cars, after they all started, Blake, heavily weighted to the front of the field. All the chaos spread them out significantly over those results.
It really did. And again, I hate to see it for Dylan Duval, who was so strong early in the race, but rebound effort is in 2 weeks for these drivers at Texas Motor Speedway. And I think, again, another race that has raced really well on here. I know even in the qualifying series, we saw drivers running all over the racetrack in turns 1 and 2. So I really think Texas, it's technical. Well, if this group can wide it out in 1 and 2 all the way to the wall, even that I was running in that race, we could see one heck of a battle play out here. They say everything's bigger in Texas, and I think that may very well be the case when we get here in 2 weeks.
1 down, 2 races to go in the round of 10. And still nobody has stamped their mark on the grid for the championship 4. All of that and more in 2 weeks' time. But until next time, that is it for us here tonight from MIS. On behalf of our entire team at eNASCAR, iRacing, everybody behind the scenes who makes tonight's broadcast possible, and of course for your team upstairs tonight. For Blake McCandless and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to congratulate Briar LaPrade on his first career eNASCAR win, the 68th different in the 15-year history of this series. We're back in 2 weeks' time. That's Tuesday, August 27th at iRacing's virtual Texas Motor Speedway. That race and every race of the 2024 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series playoffs can be found exclusively right here on the iRacing Esports Network and streaming live at eNASCAR.com. Until next time, good night from Michigan.